Hi! If you've spent any amount of time in piercing or body mod communities, or let's be honest, even just online, you will have definitely heard of the piercing and probably also the many, many myths surrounding its origin that we're going to be talking about today. The Prince Albert piercing. It's really no surprise at all, considering it's one of, if not the most popular, dare I say, iconic genital piercings in the entire world. In this video, I'm going to be going over what it actually is, because maybe you're just playing along with the meme and don't really know what a Prince Albert is, and at this point, you're too afraid to ask. Its origins, significance in queer and kink communities over the years, and of course, everything that you should know if you're thinking about getting one. Now, the last time I made a queer-centered piercing video, it did get recommended to a handful of people who clearly had no experience with the queer community, aside from knowing that sometimes boys like boys and sometimes girls like girls. So if I am cursed to repeat that same fate, and this happens to be you, let me hold your hand while I put out a disclaimer, because clearly you people need it. What I say in this video is not the be-all end-all regarding the Prince Albert piercing, the queer community, the kink community, genital piercings, or whatever else I touched on, okay? Multiple things can be true at once. And when I use terms like gender affirming, it does not mean that anyone and everyone who has this specific piercing now identifies with the gender identity that I mentioned, okay? It's okay to not know things and be confused when you're being confronted with new concepts that may be difficult for you to grasp, like how someone's sexuality can specifically play into their gender identity. And there is no need to tell me that I am contradicting myself just because you do not understand that concept, okay? That seemed to have been very, very difficult for a lot of you the last time I talked about gender affirming piercings, so let's not try to bean soup in the comments this time, alright? I want everyone to have a good time, especially me, because I'm the one who reads all of your comments. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, I do actually have a tiny little announcement that I'm going to be putting at the end, because I fear this intro is already very, very, very long, and like 50% of people have already clicked off because I yap too much. So if you would like to hear my announcement, it's nothing terribly exciting. I just really don't know what to call it other than an announcement. Stick around till the end. And now that all of that is out of the way, if you enjoy these types of videos and you would like to see me make more, please do let me know by leaving me a like, and maybe consider subscribing if you would like to see more from me and never miss another one of my videos. And let's finally jump into the video. First things first, what even is a Prince Albert piercing? Well, the Prince Albert piercing is a genital piercing. Specifically, it is a piercing located on the penis, where the jewelry enters through your urethral opening, aka the pee hole, and exits on the underside of the penis, usually near the frenulum. The piercing can be performed whether the person getting it is circumcised or not. If the person is circumcised, it is placed straight in the center. If the person isn't circumcised, it is usually placed off to the side a little bit to avoid pressure on the jewelry from the foreskin and to avoid the foreskin getting caught on the jewelry. I really wish I could put in some photos for visual aid, but I don't think YouTube likes that very much. So I'm hoping and praying I find really, really good either illustrations or like weird fruit stock photos that are somehow meant to represent a penis. Editing Joe, do your very best. If not, give it a quick search on Beamazine or the search engine of your choice, and I am sure tons of photos will pop up. The Prince Albert is also what is known as a functional genital piercing, meaning it enhances sexual experiences. On the one hand, of course, the jewelry will stimulate the nerve endings of the wearer. On the other hand, many partners of Prince Albert wearers also report heightened sensations due to the jewelry. Since the jewelry, especially if you're wearing a ring, provides extra pressure during penetration. Please do be very careful though, because the jewelry does have the potential to hurt your partner very, very badly if they are unprepared, to put it in YouTube friendly terms. And also, of course, it comes with the potential danger of chipped teeth and all that not so fun stuff. So be careful. I think everyone I have ever talked to about Prince Albert piercings who has a penis and doesn't have genital piercings has visibly recoiled at the mere thought, which I can totally empathize with because it does sound absolutely terrifying. But both the procedure and the healing are so quick. It's really no wonder it is one of the most performed genital mods worldwide. Most people, and by that I'm mostly referring to Reddit users who shared their experience getting healing having a Prince Albert piercing, thank you so much for your service, would rate the pain a 2 or 3 out of 10, which really isn't that bad at all. I personally can neither confirm nor deny those claims, considering I simply do not have the appropriate anatomy to get a Prince Albert piercing, but considering the urethra is a natural opening and the tissue around the exit point is very, very thin, it does make sense that it would only be like a 2 or 3 out of 10 on the pain scale. I'll gladly take the word for it. Healing time for this piercing is surprisingly quick, considering it only takes about 6 to 8 weeks for initial healing. Likely because the area does have a lot of blood flow and because the piercing is frequently cleaned by peeing, since urine is a mild natural disinfectant. Side note, please don't start putting pee on your piercings to clean them. That's not what that means. There's a difference between there having to be pee around a fresh piercing and you just willingly putting urine on an open wound. Just please don't put pee on your piercings if you don't have to. While we're on the topic of pee, also be prepared for a split stream and possibly having to sit down when peeing, because you now have a piece of jewelry in your pee tube. I'm just going to part the yellow C. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Maybe you'll think it's really cool that you can just go like this now. I think I would think it's really cool if I could have split pee, to be honest. That being said, you do still need to do some sort of aftercare because just peeing is not going to cut it. Of course, the most convenient way would be to have some sort of saline spray that you would use to clean your piercing once or twice a day. However, I do see a lot more people recommending saline soaks specifically for Prince Albert piercings because those do help get saline solution on the inside and help clean that part of the jewelry. No sex or masturbation for the first 3 or 4 weeks. The longer you can abstain, the better, of course. And even after the initial healing, I would personally recommend wearing robust condoms for the first handful of months to avoid micro tears from your jewelry and following infection through those micro tears, just because there's a ton of bacteria wherever you're having sex. Your initial Prince Albert jewelry will likely be a ball closure ring with a thickness of 2 or 2.5 millimeters, which is almost twice as thick as most other standard size piercing jewelry. Personally, I think the motto "thicker is better" applies to any and all piercings, considering your body has a much easier time healing large gauge piercings. However, it is especially true for genital piercings, considering they have a lot more wear and tear, if you will. Plus, jewellery that's too thin can very, very easily cause what's known as the cheese grater effect, which is where the jewellery slowly migrates or cuts through the soft tissue and just like ends up rejecting. It's very, very common in nostril piercings when people want to wear like the daintiest, tiniest rings in the nostrils and then just end up with like a really long scar down their nose because they wouldn't listen. To help counteract this, a lot of Prince Albert wearers will stretch their piercing, and the most common gauge is around 4 or 5 millimeters, which coincidentally is just about the thickness of the ring that I'm wearing in my septum, if you needed a visual aid. Believe it or not, a lot of people do say that stretching their Prince Albert piercing makes the jewelry feel a lot more comfortable and stable. Popular jewelry styles for the Prince Albert piercing include, but are not limited to, bolt closure rings, which are probably the most popular, circular barbells, which have a similar look but are a lot easier to clean and remove, curved barbells, which are a lot more discreet, and princess ones, which are a specific kind of play jewelry, if you get my drift, which consist of a tube or a rod that go deep down into the urethra, and that is held in place at the very tippy top through the Prince Albert. As always, my number one material recommendation is implant grade titanium, but after you're done healing, there are plenty of beautiful pieces you can get in 14 karat gold, or if you like it a bit simpler, you could also get something made of Delrin, which is a medical grade polymer, which is a lot lighter than metal jewelry and especially helpful if you're planning on stretching to a large gauge. Also more comfortable. Of course, if we're talking Prince Albert piercings, there is no way you can get around the many, many myths surrounding its origins. Of course, there's variations to this, but according to urban legend, Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, hence the name, was so well endowed that he had a very, very difficult time fitting his appendage into the very tight military trousers that were all the rage in the 19th century. Or B, he was so well endowed that he had troubles comfortably sitting on his horse. So supposedly he used a dressing ring to either lift up his penis or put it to one side and attach it to a button with that ring to keep it tucked away. There's another myth surrounding the origin of this piercing that claims he used it to keep his foreskin retracted and also ordered his soldiers to do the same to prevent foul odors, considering hygiene wasn't what it is today. And now you might be wondering, okay, but like, which is it? Which one of these is the origin of the Prince Albert piercing? And the answer is none of them. Most historians agree that those urban legends are nothing more than that, just legends. Much like the one about Marilyn Manson removing one of his ribs so he could suck his own cock. There is, unfortunately, no evidence in diaries, letters, anything to support the theory that Albert was cool like that. A much more likely theory is that the name was popularized in the 1970s by Doug Malloy and Jim Ward, who are regarded as pioneers of Western body piercing. Malloy was known to embellish or even fully invent origin stories of piercings to add a sense of glamour and mystery to them, especially genital piercings, to really help market them to an ever-growing subculture of body mod enthusiasts. However, while the English royalty story is a myth, genital piercings themselves are actually ancient. The Kama Sutra, for example, which was published all the way back in the 3rd century CE, describes perforating the lingam for sexual enhancement. Similarly, the Dayak of Borneo have performed glans piercings like the Ampalang or Upper Java for centuries as rites of passage into manhood. Beyond aesthetics and fun origin myths, the Prince Albert actually has deep roots in the gay, leather, and BDSM scenes of the 1970s and 80s. Especially in the overlapping queer and kink communities, piercings were and still are important tools to express one's identity. To people in the know, they can outwardly display things like sexual preferences or what role the wearer takes on in certain, oftentimes sexual contexts, so they serve as a powerful tool of erotic expression and identity. Within the gay, leather, and BDSM community specifically, the Prince Albert was used to symbolize control, endurance, and sexual power dynamics, specifically representing roles of dominance or submission. Of course, like I touched on a tiny bit earlier, genital piercings within the kink community are also often used for functional play, which I don't think I can get too much into on here because, again, YouTube doesn't like that. But let's just say things are easily attached to Prince Albert piercings. And I'll let your mind fill in the rest. Gay pioneers like Jim Ward or Mr. Sebastian viewed the piercing as a means of personal empowerment and a way for gay men to explore alternative expressions of masculinity and bodily expression. During the AIDS crisis of the 80s, genital piercings and body modifications within the queer community in general became acts of defiant self-ownership, which allowed individuals to reclaim ownership of their bodies that were being heavily politicized and stigmatized. Today, many trans and non-binary people use genital piercings like the Prince Albert as a tool for gender affirmation. For some, it can help alleviate dysphoria by practically forcing the wearer to sit down while peeing, much like someone with a vulva would do. For others, it can provide a sense of biomechanical customization that steps outside of traditional gender binaries. Ultimately, any and all body modifications will always have foster a sense of solidarity between wearers and connect people, be it through tradition, a shared sense of aesthetics, or purpose behind the piercing, or simply just resistance against modern Western beauty standards. And it's this outward portrayal of rejection of normativity, if you will, that makes piercings so incredibly popular within queer spaces. It is an outward proclamation of not wanting to fit in and not wanting to conform to what other people think you should look like or you should live your life like. And that is all I have for you today. If you are considering getting a Prince Albert piercing for yourself, and maybe that's the reason you're watching this, let this be a reminder to please do your research and go to a highly reputable piercer to get it done. If you have a Prince Albert piercing and you would like to share your experience in the most PG way possible so that this video doesn't get flagged and or taken down by YouTube, or you have any more questions that I didn't cover in this video, please feel free to share in the comments below. I love chatting with you all. And I think it's now time for my announcement, which is simply thank you so much for 3,000 subscribers. I don't know what to say. I never know what to say, to be honest. Thank you so much for being here, for supporting me, for watching my silly little videos and commenting and talking to me and just being here and hanging out and maybe even enjoying the stuff that I post. I actually tried doing this when I hit 2,000 subscribers and it majorly flopped because I literally got one whole question. So at the risk of embarrassing myself again, I would absolutely love to do a Q&A because there are so many new people here. If you have any questions about myself, about I don't know, whatever I've shared on this channel, please feel free to just drop it in the comments as well. If you are feeling shy, I also have a telegram where you can send in your questions anonymously. Don't be weird though. And if I don't majorly flop again, I will do some sort of Q&A video very soon. Thank you again for 3,000 subscribers. It's crazy. I cannot wrap my head around it. If this flops again, pretend none of this ever happened, and I will never ever try again. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to me yap about penis piercings. An extra special thank you to my channel members. If you would also like to become a rap baby and support me, you can join up here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
I'm glitching.